show. I'm your host, Marionette, and today I'm joined by Peter Puppet, an esteemed journalist and longtime puppet historian.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Of course, we're happy to have you. Now, Peter, you've been in this business for a long time, but I have to know, what defines a puppeteer?
I will say this. Puppeteers do it all. Most are triple threats. They act, control the puppets, they voice the characters. But to quote Colette Seals, to be a puppeteer, the person controlling the image and object must be present during the performance, even if it's recorded and otherwise retouched before intended audiences perceive it.
Fascinating.
You don't have to do it all, though. The skill set required for the job depends upon what each puppeteer actually wants to do. Being a performer means that you have to be able to sing, act, and man the puppets mostly.
Do you know if puppeteers are protected by a labor union?
Yes, they are. Some puppeteers are actually protected by the Screen Actors Guild, which you probably know as SAG-AFTRA. They're protected alongside the other actors.
Interesting. If it's not much trouble, would you mind going into more depth about this, Peter?
Of course. Essentially, the role of a puppeteer can actually be a lot of different positions. There are builders, who, as the name suggests, build the puppets. There are the typical puppeteers, who control the puppets on screen. And then there are wranglers, who costume and construct the puppets. They're unfortunately not as unionized, though, and aren't as noticed. The job of a wrangler is dangerous since they're surrounded by a ton of fumes and harmful chemicals, and that they use to dress up the puppets in, and it's not OSHA approved.
Wow, that's really unfortunate. Being a puppeteer or a wrangler sounds difficult. So myself and I'm sure many of our viewers are wondering, what does a daily schedule of a puppeteer look like?
A good friend of mine, Pam Marcirio.
Love her. Such a kind woman.
Very lovely to work with, I agree. I remember she would come into work every day around 8 a.m. with the lines almost memorized. She'd then wait for the stage manager to call her and her coworkers to the floor. They'd pick us up puppets from the wrangler's table, and then they'd start shooting. I loved being on screen. You have no idea. Anyways, where was I? Oh, right. The crew would usually have a lunch break and a couple 10-minute breaks throughout the day. They would aim to finish shooting by 6 p.m.
That doesn't sound too bad. I've heard from others that filming can take hours, commonly reaching double digits.
Yeah. Sometimes they'd be filming and working until midnight, but it was rare. I remember they'd often have to crouch to get the shots, which would make it hard for them to get their voice out like they'd like to. When they'd sing, they'd usually pre-record it since it was difficult to voice the puppets.
Well, that's show business for ya. Can you tell us a bit about what Pam has worked on?
Pam's so talented. I mean, she's really a gem. Pam has worked on Between the Lions as Lhana. She voiced Sonata and Lindy on Allegra's Window. Luis on Lomax, the Hound of Music. She's worked on Eureka's Castle and The Great Coaster.
Wow. What a handful.
I know. She kept herself busy. She also had a brief moment in the Orpheum Theater as the scary plant in Little Shop of Horrors. But among this impressive career, she's worked mainly on Sesame Street as Grungdetta, who is Oscar the Grouch's girlfriend.
I love Sesame Street. I'd love to hear more about it if you don't mind sharing.
I'd love to, Mary. Sesame Street is the longest-running children's show, currently on its 55th season. Sesame Street was created by Joan Gaines Cooney, who was a documentary producer. Now, his goal was to both educate and entertain children all across demographics, connecting them through the universal medium of public television. Sesame Street hired my already accomplished good friend Jim Henson to develop and puppeteer characters for the show. His beloved characters are still being puppeteered on screen today.
Are any of those characters currently played by the same people?
Oh, Mary, 55 years is a long time for something to be on TV. Any of the original puppeteers have unfortunately either passed away or retired. Regardless, most of the main characters have only been played by 2 or 3 people. For example, going back to Pam, she's been playing Grungdetta since 1985. After inheriting the role from Brian Mell, that's a long time to stick with one character.
That really is. Well, Peter, that's all I have for you tonight. It was such a pleasure for you to join us on the show.
No, thank you for having me, Mary.
Join us next week for an exclusive tell-all interview with Truman, Emerson's own therapy dog. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. I'm Marionette, wishing you all the best.